And then we have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So welcome everyone. I got caught up in the high end how it is. So this will meeting please come to order. I'd like to welcome our guests and our members and people in the audience, I assume, no?
To attend.
Great, great, great. This is the North Southwest Parks and Recreation District Advisory Committee meeting. And so, yes, today is April 12th. So the first agenda item is our action step, which is to approve the DAC meeting summary for March 8th. I had a couple of questions about it.
No. If you have questions, go for it.
I do.
was gonna make one.
Sure. Well, it's a minor thing because it gives the date that we were going to have the park and playground design update here, but as the old date and the old date, we just leave it that way, even though it's a new date.
Yes, this is a recording of what we did talk about. We'll have a new update for this meeting.
Very good. And then the other thing, it said that the system plan and CIP timeline are on hold, and yet I thought they were in the works. So was that accurate, or do I misunderstand?
I don't know that should say on hold. We probably just wrote something down wrong. We'll change that to in process.
Sure.
Okay.
That'd be great. And that's it. So that was all for me. That was a very minor change and a question. Would somebody like to make a motion? Or we can approve it without objection as amended. Make a motion. How's that? We can do it that way as well.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Nice.
This is a totally stupid maybe parenting moment. Is that what I'm getting feedback from just clicking here? Is that what the pump? Oh, okay, it is. Never mind. I feel like I should tell my daughter to quit playing with the water bottle over in the corner. I just keep hearing this little weird noise in the corner, but I think it's just I apologize.
There is some.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not complaining. I just wanted to identify noise.
All right.
No, I didn't mean that.
There we go.
Sorry, Grover. Okay, now I'm gonna get everyone to be annoyed by it. I apologize.
Great, so that does that, and the next is discussion agenda, system plan status update.
Okay, thank you, Chair and committee. We have sorry, we have Katie Dunham here to give us an update and a few slides. We are trying to get the screen so that you guys can see it and the audience can still see with moving around. We did have this in the packet, but we'll just move forward and let Katie take over. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
Katie, you want to probably move the mic to be more in front of you. There you go.
I love microphone. Can you hear me? Thank you for having me here today to talk to you about the system plan. We're all really excited about this project. And I just wanted to have a quick update for you on the process that we've had and ask a question of one of you to join us in some of the work that we have coming up. Today, what we'll cover briefly is the system plan purpose, the request for proposals that we've been working on, the timeline for the contracting and for hiring a consultant to work with us on this project, and the overall timeline for the future process. Please let me know if you have any questions as I speak, or at the end also we'll ask questions. So today we're finally kicking off on the system planning work. Our current purpose and approach for this work is to work toward a 20-year district vision and a 10-year comprehensive plan. So really that gives us a 20-year look toward the future for what people believe we'd like to have in the future of the district, and then a 10-year implementation plan. We will develop a 5-year capital improvement plan, which is the assets the parks and facilities that we hope to have in those next 5 to 10 to 20 years, but make sure that that's implementable. We'll build understanding, communication, and consensus amongst community members, building trust and engaging throughout our community throughout this entire process. We're utilizing best practices for research and analysis, and also for inclusive and meaningful engagement, learning from others how we can reach out to our community and asking them how we can best serve them as we move into the future. We're asking a consultant to join us in this journey, and we're going to lead in partnership with them in this work. So right now, we have a request for proposals out on the street available at Oregon Buys. This work is very exciting for all of us. It's going to be a research and engagement driven process, as I mentioned earlier. And the consultant we're asking that will work with us will have expertise in all aspects of parks, trails, natural areas, and planning, including needs assessment, asking the community what they need, how we can serve them, and what we have to help serve them currently. Look at our level of service, that is what we have and how well we're providing parks and recreation services to the community. What are the trends in our community, nationwide, locally, and here in the state of Oregon, and benchmarking ourselves against others, but also looking specifically at what our needs are according to our community and what they say they want in our parks and recreation. Really important piece of this will be financial and funding analysis. So with what we need, what people say they need, what will it cost to get there, and how can we get there? And what our current funding looks like and what we would need to do to get there. And then also looking at our business, our maintenance and operations review, and planning for how we can make sure to meet those needs in the future. In the 2022-2023 capital budget, we've planned for up to $500,000 to spend on this project. And with the RFP for the consultant, we've said that we have $300,000 for that work with that consultant. Additional project funds will go toward hiring assistants to work with us on this project, such as interns for community engagement and GIS analysis, and also mailings and community engagement stuff that we need in order to have really fun engagement with our community. So right now, again, like I said, we're in the middle of kind of contracting for this contractor to assist us with the system plan. We've been working on this for the last few months, developing the RFP, researching best practices, and discussing our project with other agencies and with consultants to see what they do, how they've done it, and how we can bring those best practices to NCPRD in the work that we're going to do. The RFP went out a couple weeks ago, and it's advertised through May 11th. Then we'll go through a process of selecting a proposer, negotiating a scope and fee with them, and completing the contract. Once that's complete, we'll actually get to put together our community engagement plan and develop the contract and go to the board of directors for their approval. We expect to kick off the project externally, probably around July 1st. This is the timeline for the entire project as we see it now. Again, as I said, we're kind of in pre-planning work with the project kickoff happening in the summer, and a lot of community engagement and activities throughout the summer. We'll receive information from that work during the fall, and we'll look more deeply into what we've heard from the community. We'll begin developing the proposed vision, mission, values, goals, strategies, and actions in the winter. And we'll bring that all back to have conversations during the spring in a second phase of community engagement. Hopefully next summer, we'll take that final plan for review and adoption and begin implementation in the fall of 2024. Does anyone have any questions about what I presented or these pieces? And then I'll ask the question for what we need today. Nada?
Could you say a little more about the trends and the benchmarking?
Trends and benchmarking.
Yeah.
That's looking at things that, that our consultants see happening across the country and in the state and locally. So
Such as-
things like pickleball,
Oh, okay.
which when we did the work 10 and 20 years ago, even 2 years ago, 5 years ago, we didn't know pickleball was going to be as big as it is now. So that's probably one of those things that we'll hear from that we need to incorporate into our assets and, as we're doing now, into our program. So looking at both recreation and also even some of the physical asset trends. So more inclusive play. That's been a
Planting
thing.
pollinator beds, that's kind of.
Pollinator
thing.
beds.
It's a new trend, so, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a really neat way to see, to look at, have the consultants help us look at things that we may not be seeing here, but may be coming soon, and to anticipate those.
I'm always so interested in some of the standards that I think you would benchmark to, having to do with how many parks there are within a certain walking distance or per capita or that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we call that level of service
Okay,
or analysis
okay,
for what we have and where it is and how many we need to have, and then benchmarking that against what other communities do.
great, thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to piggyback on that last question there. So that's called level of service, but that will actually look at and focus on distance to, et cetera. Okay, good.
Mhm.
And I really bring that up because actually, I also want to ask you about, you use the term comprehensive plan. I don't want to confuse the world because the majority of NCPRD is under the Clackamas County state mandated comprehensive plan, and I don't think you're referring to that here, or are you? And I don't understand how that fits in, the 10-year comprehensive plan.
So that's a good point. The Clackamas County has a comprehensive plan, as does the city of Milwaukee.
Mhm.
And we fit into those comprehensive plans. There's a section of Clackamas County's comprehensive plan that refers to open spaces.
And chapter 9.
And currently it's out of date. I'm working with the county on updating that. So that in the future, that will actually refer to our system plan as our comprehensive plan. So our system plan is our comprehensive plan. It acts in the same way. And then the city of Milwaukee, in the past has required us to have our, system plans or master plans accepted or adopted by the city of Milwaukee as part of their comprehensive plan. So we are an element, our system plan is an element of the county's comprehensive plan. Should be, will be.
Yeah, and the point I want to make is that 80% of NCPRD is under the comprehensive plan, and if you read chapter 9, you'll see there's plenty of things that are, they're referencing the time and date of 50 years ago,
Yep.
but it's still are things that are still needing to be addressed. And so I didn't want to get confusion about, so you do mean that this process will update the NCPRD portion of the Clackamas County,
Yes.
okay?
So
And
that
will
the-
there be community involvement in that? Because that's also been another question for a long time, is how much community involvement is in the process. We've been in small parts, but that's a whole chapter.
Yeah, there will be a lot of community engagement.
Super. I had another question on the system plan consult RFP. You referred to fiscal year 22-23, which means that ends at the end of June. Is that the time period you're talking about, the up to $500,000?
It has been funded for the current fiscal year,
Uh-huh.
and it is proposed for the next fiscal year's budget.
Okay. so that
Because we
was-
have not used any of that
Okay.
funding. this
No
year.
problem. And then the last thing is on the timeline and system plan contracting. I see that it's going to be contract to the board for approval. Now, the function of the district advisory committee is specifically to advise the board of directors of NCPRD. And so for us to be able to do advising, we need to be included in the process. And I noticed this entire document, DAC doesn't come up anywhere. And yet, by our board mandated guidelines, that is our function.
And let us ask our question, Grover.
What's the question?
That's what we were leading into.
That's a great
You're just getting
question.
ahead of what we wanted to ask, and it's
So-
our fault.
How
So,
unlikely?
Yes.
so there are two pieces to this, Grover. One is that,
Okay.
one is that this goes through a Clackamas County procurement process, which is separate from the District Advisory Committee or any of our committees. However, what we have proposed and what we're bringing to you now, our question for today is, we would like to ask that one of the District Advisory Committee members be part of our proposal review process that will be occurring, so that that member can represent the DAC in that conversation. We will have 5 staff members as part of that, myself, Mike, Dominic, our deputy director, and Melina, who's our marketing and communications manager, because that's a big piece of what this project does. And then Heather and myself. And we'd like to have the DAC member be part of that. What that would take is we will be receiving proposals on the 11th of May. That DAC member would receive information from our procurement manager to make sure that there's no conflict of interest, and then receive the proposals. We're hoping to meet on the week of May 22nd and review those proposals and get together and see who we think are the best fit. And we may do interviews after that to a number of firms. We're hoping to get a number of proposals, great proposals from great firms. So that interview may be necessary. We'll also do a training for that DAC member and for the members of the committee so that they know what they're involved in. So that is something that we'd like to have a conversation with you about and see who is interested in that.
I have a question. You said 11th through, you received them on the 11th and then review them on the 22nd. So that's 11 days. Is that a hard deadline? Can that be extended? That seems like quite a short amount of time to review such material.
It is a short amount of time. The reason that we've contracted it is because we do want to make sure to move quickly in hiring the consultant and getting to our July 1st deadline. So it will require this person to spend probably at least 6 hours in meetings with us during that period of time we talked about. And for them to have some expertise in consulting, in contracting or consulting, or knowledge of system planning and this type of work. We do want to move quickly just because we want to make sure to get all these steps in, because contracting with the county does take a while.
Yeah, this
In order
is
to get
just
us
step
through the
one. Once we
process.
have a choice, then we have to make the recommendation to procurement. And then it's a lengthy process just to get the contract. So it is a quick turnaround, but it's not unstandard, a week to 10 days to do the reviews and scoring. Because really, once we do the scoring, it's given back to procurement, and they're the ones that tally everything up and give us the kind of the results of what everybody had said.
Sorry, Ryan, I missed your sign.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I gave my team 3 days. So that's pretty nice.
That's
generous. A week is a longer.
That's
commitment. We
very
had-
kind of. So it was 3 days and then 2 days to decide, or a day to decide. So that's pretty generous.
Well, so you have this kind of experience, it sounds like.
Yeah, I just reviewed, I've done 2 sets of RFPs. Okay, so it's 2 sets of RFPs within the last year and a half, and wrote the RFPs as well as interviewed consultants. Contracting is a little different between different agencies, but there are very specific requirements around contracting. I've taken the non-bias training around contracting, which is in my agency is pretty a fairly intense process. So I've gone through that whole process multiple occasions, and scoring, because you have to score in a little silo by yourself and do the interview process and ask very specific questions. So I'm really familiar with that.
And the time frame is not obviously intimidating to you at all, so.
3 days.
I mean, well, yeah, I'm kind of mean though, so No,
You
It's kind of slowly throwing you under the bus here.
That's okay. I would be really interested in doing this, for our, I have a lot of questions, but I would really be interested in participating. And 6 hours of.
Depends.
And then-
A half hour training, 2.5 hours to discuss, and then the interviews if we choose to.
Yeah, and then, of course, the time, it usually takes about 8 hours to review more proposals. So for me, it's about 8 hours to review. So I really want to do it. I'd like to do it.
You love that.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, who's not here? Is Raphael? and-
Ben,
Ben. I'm just wondering if we, so if we give a few days for people to throw their hat in the ring, and I certainly thank you for stepping up, and you certainly did. So,
So if I understand then, Chair, and get the rest of the committee, so long as if there's more than one person that comes up, how would you like us to choose then who we would pick? Because we can't wait a month. So if Ryan is volunteering, I would say we should take that so that there's no uncertainty. I don't want to have to make a call if somebody volunteers after.
okay, I understand. So we wouldn't be able to make the choice until we were reconvened. Got it. Okay, well, is there a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that Ryan volunteer.
Do we accept
Thank you. It's, was anybody else interested? It's fun.
I did it for years, I know.
More interested in the result than.
Yeah, and we'll obviously after scoring and all of that, we'll be coming back to y'all with a report on, what we can share of the process.
Just to get a handle on how many, do you have any idea how many people are going to, companies are going to
All
participate?
thousand and three.
How many are out there that want to be?
Oh, there's a lot out there. I mean, I would say we're probably gonna get at least a half a dozen. I would hope.
I've directly contacted 14 firms, and I spoke with 6 firms over the last few months that were all interested and had capacity. So we're hoping they have capacity to spend the time to apply. We're hoping for 3 to 5 proposals.
well, I'd gladly second Maureen's motion.
Okay,
All right.
motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jessica, could you take a vote, or do we want to just raise hands?
You can just do it.
Hand raised, all those in favor?
You can vote for yourself.
Okay.
There we go. That's enthusiasm.
No
Unanimous.
regrets.
Thank you.
Grover, I'm gonna.
Thanks,
really
Katie.
excited about it the whole time.
Yes.
That's good.
Don't. put that-
You always need a reason.
You just said it.
Okay, so that finishes the system plan update. And our next item is the goal setting discussion. And for this, we will suspend our normal meeting rules and call for Aaron to,
I'm so glad to be back, everyone.
yeah.
Let me get my stuff out here. So folks on this side of the table, you're gonna swing around to that side of the table. And Jessica, is the list of what we did last time in there?
It is.
It's not, I was gonna sneak in and share this.
And so is our homework.
And so is your homework.
Yeah. That one sucks.
Okay. I am so glad to be back. For those of you who don't remember, and for members of the public, I'm Erin Ruff. I use she or they pronouns, and I am a facilitator with Packers County Resolution Services. My understanding is I am working with this group to set some about 5-year goals. And so, Grover, I want to check in with you first and say, do we need to have any conversation about the dovetail between the systems plan we were just talking about and the DAC plan? That
Well, that's a good question, because if I understand everyone correctly, if I'm not getting this right, we're doing this as goal setting for this body, and we are not directly responsible for generating the system plan. And my question was, where does the DAC fit into that process, and at what points, and how will it be updated so we could advise the board of directors? But as far as we are not designing that document, so this is a document for us as a body.
Okay.
But I would add that whatever discussed here is gonna inform our system plan process as well.
Yeah,
So,
I would hope so.
Yeah.
That what this group comes up with will be shared with the whoever's
Yes.
hired for the system plan. Okay.
And I want to add one other last thing, because since the DAC has been in reality, we have been slowly working to expand our reach to be a two-way communication.
Mhm.
And so having us not just be this group of people, but input from folks, I've talked to people, I think others have as well. So we would definitely want to be able to have it be put up there, because we said it doesn't mean that's what it is.
Got it. And most importantly, do all the rest of the members of the committee feel clear about this work and what it is and isn't in relation to the system plan? Because I just want to make sure we don't get confused along the way. Okay, nobody's saying I need more explanation. So I'll go on. All right. I'm gonna do something I don't usually do, but it's feeling right this time, and that is, I want to ground us back in the work we did last time. So the work we did last time was, what's the 50-year vision, right? And we threw up all of the items on the board, and they showed up in kind of naturally in kind of 7 categories. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of read those out loud going around the table. And there's not an easy good division. So how about everybody reads 3 of them and then we move on? Can we do that? So I'll start over here with Katie, and Katie, you're going to start at top of safety and read the first 3, and then we'll go.
System, the vote.
Oh, yeah, I didn't scroll all the way to the top. System. You're going to start with systems, Katie.
All right, NCPRD is the gold standard for the region in terms of quality of space, programs, events, a connected approach, and a nimble creative system.
All right.
I'm getting to it, sorry.
She's up here.
And you left off?
I have the third one. so that-
Oh, okay, thank you. Parks as economic development tool, businesses are connected. Redefine what pocket parks, I assume, and neighborhood parks look like, density. And custom to this district needs. Integral to neighborhoods and gathering point for natural disasters, which concludes the system.
Fantastic. Ryan, we're gonna skip over staff and have you start with the top of safety.
I will just do all the safety.
Okay,
Okay, every family can watch a kid to a park safely. Top of mind for board people of all ages. Residents prioritize time and nature and a gathering point for natural disasters.
yeah,
Okay.
go ahead, funding.
Funding, abundant funding, robust public-private partnerships, parks as economic development tool, businesses are connected.
Okay, stewardship, land trust capacity. Property owners see the value of donated land to the park. Redefine what parks and neighborhood parks look like, density and custom to this district's needs. That sounds similar to what we.
Well, it's duplicated and.
Yeah, there are a
The
couple that
various
are,
categories.
there are a couple that are duplicated in different categories.
And then amenities, primary neighborhood gathering space.
Okay, under amenities, park distribution, and funding equity, geographic, current and projected. Mitigate climate impacts, carbon sink. Venue spaces at parks are clamored for. It's competitive to get the space you want for your gathering.
Venue spaces are multifunctional. celebrate native plants and vegetables, interconnected system of pathways, greenways, abundant trees, natural areas, and support habitat.
Roller skating / indoor activities, abundant fields, gyms, pools, and recreation, skate parks, dog parks. I'll just finish this. They're
Great.
short. Water access, water education. Is that supposed to be?
I think it's
Yes,
supposed to ornithology,
Ornithology.
Okay.
which is birds.
Oh, I thought it was birds.
I said that.
That's
okay,
about
yeah. Sitting space. Sorry. Turn my brightness. That's an M.
My eyes understand that. All right, back to you, Katie.
Got it?
Sitting
Well-
spaces.
Oh, I'm so, yeah, that was my bad.
People welcoming, continuously evolving all ages, races, abilities, identities, income levels, cultures, as informed by community. Tons of community events and gatherings. Every family can walk a kid to a park safely. Integral to neighborhoods.
Fantastic. Now I'm gonna go to you, Katie.
Primary neighborhood gathering space, again, top of the mind for board people of all ages. Residents prioritizing time in nature. All right.
Yeah, maybe if you don't mind, thank you. And then connecting / education, robust public-private partnerships. Everyone in and out of the district knows about NCPRD services and programming. Tourism videos of the area first and best promotion in parks. Resident prioritize time in nature, informal nature education opportunities, and year-round use and demand. So I kind of hog that one, but.
I think everyone's okay with that.
All right, I thought that was a pretty good list and it's been a month and I just wanted to re-ground us in it. And next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna, I realized I ran out of room on my whiteboard, so I'm gonna this is gonna be kind of switched. And I don't know how this community and education. The next we want to step it back. And what I want to think of is, and I'm gonna try to crack it under our categories, but for that to be true in 50 years, what has to be true in 20 years, and what has to be true in 10 years? And I think that some things won't fit neatly into that category, like you'll say it has to be true in 10 and 20, the same thing has to be true in 10 and 20 years. But some things will have, in order for this to be true in 20 years, something different has to be true in 10 years. So I don't want to get too hung up on whether it's 20 or 10, but I want to be looking at that general phase and whether there is some scaffolding in that. So for one of those things that stands out, yeah. Anita. Anita?
Anita, oh, yeah.
Oh,
sorry
Anita,
about that.
Anita.
Don't worry about it. Anita, yeah, well, funding seems like the most urgent thing to make any of the other things come true.
Okay. And so, of the ways that we're doing funding, what has to be true about funding in 20 years?
It has to increase.
The abundance part.
The abundance part, and so now we have to get more specific. Like, what do we have to be doing to have abundant funding? Where do we have to be looking?
There needs to be a widespread recognition of the great value that
Okay,
sending more money to NCPRD will translate to the people sending the money.
mhm.
By the way, I think we get a bargain now, but I don't know that enough people know about it, so I want to make sure I wasn't misheard in what I said.
Okay, so folks who pay attention to the funding understand the value and the return when they send their abundant funding to you.
We could also change from a 451 to a 266.
Okay? Those are numbers to me.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter, though. Does that have meaning for everybody else, or does anybody else need, like, what would be the benefit of that?
I don't know what that means.
Okay,
You could change that from a service district to a special district.
service district to a special district, great.
And that'd be the difference of being under the county as the board of directors to having a resident requirement for the board of directors.
And it's
All
for
board of directors would be residents.
And it does something different for funding.
And the numbers just represent the Oregon revised statute. So it's
Okay.
ORS 451 is where we're currently. ORS 266 would be a special, or special district.
Acronym slang.
Yeah.
I think the more important thing, part of that is independent.
And it's independent, okay. All right, is that, so it says change from a service district board, right, county board,
Right,
and to a special district, which is resident led.
Resident board.
Resident.
right.
We really need to have a clear vision of the future. That's gonna set us up to go and get widespread funding, set us up to change districts, so have a cohesive, clear vision of the future and a plan for that future.
What shape does that take?
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say that, but I'm like, it is a system plan. Yeah.
That's what I thought, but also, okay, so you need to have a clear system plan.
Inspiring.
Oh, and inspire, I like it. Inspiring,
Well, to fit with the funding chart. particularly.
yeah. And clear system plan,
Yeah, so in other words, what are you gonna spend that abundant funding on?
yeah. And it's way easier to get funding if you say it's going towards
With the time,
pickleball courts,
the timeline and strategy and
yeah,
this comes after that.
okay.
Are we talking in actual about how to obtain more funding, like increase the property values if the current rate doesn't go up? Or increasing that rate, increasing density to drive that rate up?
Okay,
Or-
so I
I
think,
know I said taxes, it's a dirty word.
there are very few dirty words in my world. When you're a mediator, everybody is afraid to even swear around you, and yet most people just really need to swear around you. So, what I want of that is some of those things the board can control and some of those things or impact, and some of the things the board can't impact, right? So I definitely see that there's enough conversation around density and property taxes, and this board doesn't really impact who moves here, but you are definitely impacted by it. So of that, what are the things in what you just said that feel like are within this board's realm of influence?
I think they'll go back to the system plan and showing people the lack of what's there and
Mhm.
what could be, but showing that it requires money.
Okay,
So how do you go to someone and say, hey, we want to increase your tax rate?
mhm,
Why?
yeah,
What am I getting? What are we getting out of this?
okay. So we're, I have the word, we're showing funders the value, right?
Well, an informed community on what is our parks and recreation.
Okay,
It's a
I'm gonna go over
And
here for
that
this one.
comes down to talking about what we're doing and getting the community more involved and informed on this district and the value it provides. And I will disagree with you on one thing. People do move to communities because of parks and recreation.
Oh,
We've got research to
Yeah.
back that up. too.
Yeah.
Lots of research.
I did not, yes, I did not mean to say that. I bought my last house because of the park next door. I am. All right, yeah,
I think if there's any hope for having obviously any more indoor recreation, we'd need facilities for that or an idea of where that would be.
okay.
Maybe in this building, I don't know.
Okay, And what do you need to do? What do you need to do to acquire facilities? That's a long-term process for you. So what do you need to be doing to have indoor facilities 20 years from now?
Well, it goes back to showing the funders the value, but also investing in system planning to understand what are the options in funding these missing pieces
Okay.
that would get our community better connected to using the facilities and not going to Portland because there's an indoor facility there.
Got it, okay. So all of that is connected with what's already on board, right?
Options
With just like spider web chains between them.
like bonds and things like that.
It could be scouting too. The general community, at least where I live in Jennings Lodge, is much older than I am, closer in retirement or about to approach going into retirement. And everyone's going to die. So what is going to happen with the land? After they're dead, do they donate it to this new board or entity that would then turn it into a park?
Right.
So I guess that's a vision, but why did I say this? Because you're talking about how do we, Katie was saying, how do we obtain an area to have this facility? Just an example.
Yeah, so we're showing the funders the value, and I'm not gonna write it up here because I think it's already captured. Right, so we've got to show funders the value for the bonds, for the taxes, for the estate.
Donations.
Yeah,
That'd be both land and.
and estate gifts, right?
Yeah, I guess the market term that we use is like legacy planning or legacy giving.
Okay. Donations, taxes,
We-
legacy.
That's part of what we're developing.
Okay, good. 'Cause I know people want to join, but they don't have to.
Yeah, it's tied in with our land acquisition. plan.
And living cash donations. Okay. What else? What else do you need 10 to 20 years to make this true and fit?
Well, you know, the proverb that it's a wise person who plants a tree that they'll never sit under the shade of. Well, we are tree deficient, even though we got lots of big trees in places, but you look about the total coverage in Clackamas County, not counting that out in the wilderness part, I mean, in the urban area, so we can start planting trees.
Got
And
it.
then plant some more trees and then more trees and then more trees.
And you're
In
talking
every-
about in parks or just generally across neighborhoods?
Well, since we're only NCPRD, it can be in parks, but the parks and the trolley trail and what do they call it, those trails that go out here, all of those things could have more trees on them than they currently have, that's what I meant. And I'd love to have them on side of the roads and all that, but that's not an NCPRD issue.
Can I add on to what Greg was saying is also being the example to the community? Example of stewardship, an example of that's huge. If you're not a good steward, you can't ask the community to be a good steward. That's a piece of it. The other piece that I really see is one of the big picture items is creating those robust public-private partnerships as well as economic development tool business, connecting businesses, connecting employers to the system and the value of it to their business. That attracts new talent, et cetera. So how do we create those relationships for the long term? Again, that's more like 10, 20 years.
Yeah, and can we step that back? How do you, because we put this came up for 50 years. What do you do to start creating those public-private partnerships?
Let's start building relationships.
Well, and businesses are already paying a tax to NCPRD based on the number of employees, so if we could partner with them a bit more and have them be part of the, what could make a difference for y'all kind of conversation.
And programs are a great way to be the district provides the kickoff. And then the people that have the intermediate advanced level, like climbing gyms and things like that, there's partnerships there, and that creates economic value.
There's private and public partners, so people,
Mhm.
yeah, because working with local boys and girls clubs or big brother big sister programs or 4-H clubs or
School,
or the library. Yeah, I mean, all of those are under that public versus public-private, but both of them have big economic impact potential.
Okay, so I'm just putting down where we'd have to be identifying and building relationships all along the way.
I appreciated earlier what Katie said about really identifying trends and what's happening in recreation and like about pickleball. Just, I guess making sure that like, you know, for the purposes of this, like we want to see, you know, what are the things that people are accessing privately that maybe could be part of NCPRD. instead of all having to be that private business model, or trying to incorporate those interests, like pickleball, or, rock climbing. It'd be great if we had a rock wall, Clackamas County, other than the pool one, be great, just learn that.
Safety, creating a safe space, we have to set the precedent to where you go to a park, you won't be harassed. There's a place to where everyone's welcome. I guess setting that message, I'm not saying that's not the message right now, but making it clear, I don't know how you would do this in terms of not just writing rules down, but actions of parks and everything that is encompassed in currently NCPRD.
Can I write down culture, right?
Culture,
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, that's the thing, okay. Say culture in parks.
And I'd like to piggyback on the idea of safe routes to because right now, it needs to be happening now. I mean, Harold is a perfect opportunity as an example. But nobody's doing anything about Harold. It's the street that comes in right across the street, it's off the main drag, all the way down to sleepy little street.
You just took me sideways at the impact of the tolling it's gonna have on my local parks
Yeah.
outside of Clackamas County, or outside of in Clackamas County, but outside of your district. But I imagine that might be a thing to think about too.
Sorry. So adding on to what you just said is the district if we want to change the culture as a more inclusive culture, the district as an entity needs to create that initial step. And the actions of the district need to show that inclusivity is what we're about. Then there's a domino effect, it then affects the culture around the parks and the overall culture of the city. So then you're creating those inclusive spaces because you have a large district that is funded by the community that is supporting safety for people of all backgrounds. I know that's a little.
Okay, so district leads with supporting inclusive spaces.
Yeah, inclusivity, period.
Kind of an aside on that, one, inclusivity, do you mean you're gonna welcome people to come camp in the parks?
I mean, that's the discussion, that's the what you have to figure out.
I mean, not everybody is gonna be happy with that, but people come and camp in the parks and throw trash around the parks, things like that. That's part of the safety thing. So how do you?
All right,
mix
so
that
if we had a
together?
positive culture,
Yeah.
we're visioning, if we had a positive culture out there. And let's imagine for a second that positive culture includes household access to parks that felt safe to others. What would that look like?
Well, the overall county would be supporting interim housing, and the district would be supporting that if it was its own entity. And then the county would be actually supporting the interim housing and finding solutions. So it's a network of solution making.
And hold on, if the county was supporting housing, right? And there was sufficient housing so that people weren't needing to camp in parks,
Services too.
what would parks role be?
Recreation. And I don't mean sports.
Okay. And I'm looking for, is there anything specific that comes up for you around the house's community that they might need and get from parks?
Like being able to direct to resources and connecting to those resources. For
Okay.
people to come and help.
Resources and referrals. Did that sound right?
Which comes back to relationships with other agencies, public relationships.
Can you say a little more about resources and referrals? Like
Well, so
examples or something?
I'll give you a quick example so we don't take a lot of time. In Texas, there is a district, I can't remember the district. And they have a maintenance staff that was afraid to go out into parks. They created a subsection of the maintenance for these people. The entire purpose of the staff is to connect to, direct the homeless houses to resources, because every time a person moved, they're resetting the system and helping the overall system, the police department, to think about how do we do this to get these people the resources they need and the help they need, the mental health they need, and also direct them to a place that can be an interim space that was a park area. This is just one example, so that they're not being moved a week later and then they have to go through the system all over again, and it takes a month to get through the system. So it's really thinking about how does the district protect the resources they have while also helping the community groups that are in need connect the resources and making those connections. There's so many disconnects between governments
Oh, yeah.
that we're just like throwing money around, you know? And that's one example, because parks planner can't solve housing issue.
Right.
We can't solve, it's,
But they're
United-
Cleaning up.
yeah, and that's, and they found it to be very successful, and people made connections with those staff. And it was one of the most attended NRPA sessions, National Park and Rec Association. So that's an example.
All right, I,
Well, I was just gonna, I mean, kind of going on to that, I think that's thinking of it in the role of the district. I think the relationships with other public organizations are what we need to lean on to fulfill those roles. We can't become a district that I just don't think we have the bandwidth to take on being a hub for resources and referrals, but we can certainly be a hub for referring those people to direct lines of help. I do think as a district, what we do have control over and what would kind of fall under safety too, because we can't speculate what someone who's houseless, how they're going to behave in a park or otherwise, but we can make sure our policies, which will dictate hopefully behavior in these parks, is inclusive and thoughtful and flexible also. So I think our parks policies as far as behavior or what's allowed, what's not allowed, whatever the teenagers driving too loudly in the park we've discussed several times, that sort of thing. If that's really an issue, or if that's something we need to be more thoughtful about our policies and keep them flexible, because I think that's ultimately what our district can really lean on. Everything else is just, you know, we're going to have to lean on other public agencies to help us with other things. So controlling what we can is going to be important too, I think.
So that the partnering is with other agencies.
Well, absolutely. I think that's integral, like, especially in, I think most of the things we have up here, that's like going to be necessary. But for things that as a parks district that we have direct control over, I mean, it's, you know, especially as we're, you know, a large part of this discussion is about funding and the lack thereof. I mean, I think we need to be really thoughtful in how we prioritize what we want to take on as a district, and policies and, you know, relatively easy one to do. And, you know, then we go down to enforcement and things like that, where you have to rely on other organizations. But I think we need to stay focused in what we have immediate control over, and then foster those relationships with other groups to make meaningful impacts and other things that we're finding, you know, is important to us right now anyway.
And Joe, excellent point, Joe, because we're 100,000 people, and I'm talking about a 1.5 million, 2 million
Yeah.
person city that have the resources to create that. But it's the idea about.
Right. However, there is money that is available, and I'm not suggesting NCPRD become, but how do you be a liaison and help be part of that liaison of resources? So we're not going to take on providing those resources, but there's funding to pay for making those connections.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that,
But we also need to remember that our district is, you know, an island in a much larger pool too, you know, so those resources we're relying on are obviously serving much greater burden. But I understand, to your point, I agree with you. I think there needs to be more focus on that, but I just don't see our district being capable or wanting to take on those direct roles of.
correct. It's why it's similar to me as having the police be the frontline people dealing with houseless people, as opposed to have social workers or resource people be the primary. So, but it's fallen to the police, and so because if there are parks, it could fall up to NCPRD or NCPRD and the police.
And our area
So
has
it's
some
not-
tremendous or private organizations that can help even with those specific issues that we really, I mean, those are all relationships that we need to, you know, look for. We were talking about it earlier, that we really could work on fostering and making more of a priority. And it's going to be mutually beneficial too. I mean, it's going to create the culture we're talking about and everything else. But yeah, I think it's an exciting opportunity, really. It's just kind of figuring out the path to get
It
there.
takes time, yeah.
And patience, really, yeah.
Patience and time.
Yeah, I'd say the parks would be more cooperative people trying to provide the services. They're trying to be, so they should not be the service provider, that's also a job. of the market.
Right.
Or- So obviously, if the counties did what it's supposed to do, and there was a homeless problem, then that's the problem.
All right, y'all are gonna keep thinking. I'm gonna highlight some things that I have heard repeatedly and across multiple areas that I think are kind of the focal areas of this group. And I'm just highlighting the ones that stand out to me, but that is not to devalue the other ones, and you're gonna be able to, work with this and add to it. All of them here. To the trees. Well, yeah, that didn't exactly fit. It did, I'm also gonna highlight the kind of immediate low hanging, the immediately implementable ones. And this one kind of fits into that one a little bit. All right,
Safe culture in parks.
this is why I didn't highlight this one, because, but tell me if you want me to highlight it. The other things that I didn't highlight seem like they fit into one of the things that I highlighted, right? The district lead was supporting inclusivity, and the policies are inclusive and safe seems to be how you get to safe culture in parks. And I really want meaty action word kind of things. Did I have a hand over here? No, okay. So what if in 10 to 20 years, you had an inspiring and clear system plan? You had solid relationships with residents, businesses, public agencies, and nonprofits. You had inclusive and safe policies in a district that always led with supporting inclusivity. You had worked and gotten widespread recognition of funding, of the value of funding NCPRD. You changed to an independent board. You had, and this one, so this one really also fits in with this one over here. I think this one also fits in with that one over there. So you've had robust partnerships. You worked to inform and involve the community, and more partnerships.
I see you have people up there too, and nothing under that.
Yeah, that was
So-
do that.
So I guess I'm thinking, do you try to fit the people that are here now, or you try to fit the people that are gonna be here 5 years, 10 years, or?
Well, you
50
know what?
years?
So I did the people because that was how this broke down, and I'm looking at our list, and our people things all ended up here under safety. So welcoming, continuously involving, tons of community events and gatherings, every family can walk a kid to a park safely, integral to neighborhoods. Just this conversation didn't break down in the same categories, but I think what you covered here is largely. Yeah.
As I look at
No.
As I look at this, I'm going, well, none of this will matter unless climate is addressed. So maybe you could take people down and put climate.
All right, so my next question is what's missing? If you were working towards everything here, what would be missing? So, what,
I think it's a really huge one, right? It's kind of like the biggest
okay,
one.
so other than trees,
Yeah,
what do you need to do what needs to be in place 10 to 20 years from now for the healthy climate 50 years?
well, the trees, of course, are huge.
Mhm.
And I could go through a list of how they,
Right,
carbon sink and all that.
Right.
And air quality and shade and, reducing
are there,
heat island effects and all those things.
yeah, trees.
So trees are like,
Again, that's not parks. If you plant trees outside of parks, that's not,
I'm talking about, trees
Just
in
in
parks.
parks.
I'm talking about within the
That's
district.
not a big deal.
Oh,
Pardon me?
I don't think it's a big deal. There's already a lot of trees in the parks.
It's not enough.
oh,
Doesn't even have 40% coverage.
Some
Is that a-
parks have almost
Is that a true statistic? The canopy is less than 40% in our
I did
parks?
statistics on.
I'm asking, I'm
So Portland, who has had a lot of attention up for years, has been shrinking in their coverage. And then based on economics, most places that have low income, the trees don't get supported, they just cut them down. I don't know why or how, but so the point is needing to replace the number of trees that we've lost. We lost 326 trees off of River Road.
I understand that, and I'm not disputing the importance of it. I just wanted to make sure that the 40% was an accurate statistic.
I can't.
Okay, I didn't know if
There's
that,
nobody that says in the urban area in Clackamas County, I don't know that, that'd be a great thing to know, but what is the urban area? Do you know the stats for Milwaukee?
27%.
Okay, so Milwaukee, been working on it, done a great job, and they're up to 27%. So they target that you need 40% or more.
Okay,
So that's where the 40%
so
comes
here's,
from. the
so
target.
we can't have this debate here. We're,
No,
about,
I was just asking a
Oh,
question. It was not a debate. I
Oh,
didn't know if it was like a tongue-in-cheek comment or if it was just a statistic.
you were asking, and it sounds like knowing that, all right, you have.
Let's bring it up to a little higher level.
That's what I'm trying to do, yeah.
So it's really about climate resiliency, forced transition, and thinking about what is the climate gonna look like in 50 years, and how are we getting set up for that? So it's long-term climate resiliency from a park standpoint,
Mhm.
and again, being a good steward, being an example. I think that is a big piece.
Okay.
The other thing about people is probably 50 to 80% of parks are, and what Parks and Recreation does is about people.
Mhm.
So all this is
It's all
people.
All of it, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of climate and stuff in there, but this is really about people. So I think people is a given for what this business is.
Yeah.
But I think climate resiliency is really important, and thinking about that transition and transitioning parks to provide some, I don't know, buffering to that. Magic words, security trial.
Yeah, I think you're right.
About
Climate
water.
climate resiliency is the right word without trying to say how you get there.
Yeah, climate resiliency and also, climate equity. Is that what I'm thinking of?
Adaptability.
No, there's a term around, I'll tell you. I
Okay.
can't remember.
That seems to me like it would be a key piece of the system,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Okay, let's use this little space over here. I'm gonna switch colors. Okay. To have what we want down the line, what is the system plan? So I'm gonna do system plan here. Get that. And system plan would have to include climate resiliency. Tell me some more things.
System plan.
Yeah, the system plan is moving forward. I worry putting things on here that is not included in what our existing system plan is.
Oh,
It can
okay,
be part
because
of
I
the
just
system
didn't want to confuse it.
So, wait, I'm gonna add on to that and bring it to a high level again. Sorry. So the system plan is going to do what it's going to do right now.
Uh-huh.
But so if we're thinking long-term 20 years, what will we need to be doing in the next iteration?
Mhm,
Because we can't do it all right now.
mhm.
This is just the reality. So what is, we're taking steps forward. So what is that next step?
Mhm.
And maybe that's what this list is. What are we gonna be able to do now? What are we gonna be able to do in that 10 years when it needs to be updated 5 years?
No, the system plan is 10 to 20 also. So I mean, keep that in mind. It's in that same time frame as what you're all talking about. It's more you're on discussing the things that you all can help influence to drive the outcomes, which we don't know yet of the system plan.
Yeah.
But once we get those outcomes, how does this body help drive those things forward? I can't see anything in here that wouldn't be included in the system plan. I just don't want to put expectations out there that we're doing, we're solving every problem in the world with this one. We're gonna do a lot of great stuff. I didn't want to skew that.
The planning has to include climate resiliency, and I'm yelling with it.
I just want to, on plant trees, it's plant native trees. I didn't say that before. But we already have done such damage to nature by having
Except that
What is-
some of the
Yes.
districts
Yeah,
aren't
native
going to be.
Yeah.
aren't going to be
Cottonwoods and dogwoods are
survivors.
native.
Have to plant climate adapted.
All right,
Yeah.
yes, they get climate adaptive native trees, because there are trees that are totally not native to here that are away from the tropics. When it gets hotter here, as it will, but it won't sync with the insects and the biome and stuff that we have.
Again, you're talking about, how do you do this? It's not, you know, it's a detail, right, this point, the solution.
All right.
Resiliency is the big picture.
Climate resiliency is the big picture. Trees are a piece of the picture, insects are a piece of the picture, water is a piece of the picture,
Right.
soil is a piece of the picture, right? All of those things. What else is missing? You were focusing on the purple ones. What would be missing? Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
I feel like it's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's, and so what's missing question really is to imagine like putting some ends on this, but I don't want something to be missing.
I feel like the bigger picture categories, what everybody's come up with really covers
Mhm.
probably 99% of what. I feel like there's a lot of big picture categories here
Okay,
that cover it, but that's just
That's
how
you.
I see it. No,
other folks? Yeah, Katie.
I mean, I think that a huge point will be when they do really get more public feedback of finding out what people get excited about, because I think that needs to be a big part of what the plan is in terms of, you know, putting things out there that people really care about and are excited about that
Mhm.
aren't necessarily, you know, all in this room, so.
Okay, and I was just turning around to make sure that I have it up there. because
Yeah,
that's
I
important. Okay?
think that's,
Okay,
Mhm.
anybody else? Do you see something missing from this?
I mean, I don't know if it's missing, because I guess the system plan might encompass it, but I mean, we're talking about, you know, facilities and hard goods and not recreational programming.
We are. And that showed up a lot the first time. So what's the big picture thing that you would need to focus on for recreational programming?
I mean, I'm not the most knowledgeable person to answer that question. It just struck me as something that.
Well, I guess here's the question. How much does this board really guide recreational programming, or is that a staff thing?
And usually driven by trends.
It's usually
Yeah.
driven by trends, okay. So if you were
Programs are gonna
identifying,
change.
if you were
Yeah, that's- hopefully
identifying
it
trends,
Continues to change.
Yeah.
and I just imagine, you know, as they get a consultant looking at trends, that hopefully some of that comes out and getting ideas of what kind of people are doing. And a lot of that organization I see for recreation might be happening privately with a lot of private groups, kind of setting up groups that maybe NCPRD could help do some of that for this community.
Mhm.
So that not all the access to recreation people have to go to Portland for.
Right.
So
right.
I think it's in progress.
No, I think it's a
No, I think it's a
I
good
think
But
point.
it's
my
gonna happen.
question is it captured by one of the things that you said would be a focus?
I don't know that it is, because it's like those, you know, do we really have trends up there? Maybe we do.
Yeah,
There's,
we do have
recreation trends.
Right.
Okay, so yeah.
All right. All right. I think from what I've seen of this group along the way, I think this is a great place you've gotten to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a write-up of this, just like I did a write-up of the last one. And I'm gonna send it out to you. And your homework is gonna be, you're gonna have more homework this time. Your homework is gonna be to look at some of those things and write some language. Write a sentence or two about at least one or two that inspires you. That we can start, so that we can start shaping a document that says, this is what this board goal is, and what the time frame is 5 years. Final bit of this will be in 5 years, our goals and intentions are around this.
I'll write all of this up, and what I imagine is we'll probably end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll end up with 7 to 10 goals. Actually, let's see whether we can, let's see whether we can get some volunteers to start writing a little statement about what this would be. So, inspiring and clear system plan. Does anyone want to take that one on?
Here, right now.
No, to write something up between now and the next meeting.
Are we gonna make some assumptions then in this write-ups, that, for example, obviously funding is gonna be a huge assumption we are going to have to make to execute many of the other things that are highlighted in purple or red, so
Somebody is gonna do a write-up on the funding.
fair enough, but I guess okay,
Yeah, so.
but I'm saying, without that, a lot of these other things aren't going
Yeah.
to be able to.
So what I want you to do is I want you to focus on your piece. And if your piece has other things, another person is gonna focus on that. And when we get them together, we might notice gaps between them, but I just kind of want to start a place to start with each one of those things. So yeah, if you're writing up system plan, you're gonna trust that the person writing up funding is gonna do a good job of that. The person writing up relationships is gonna do a good job of that. And then none of those things will survive intact, right? It'll change. It's just a place to start. Jessica.
Ben has his hand raised.
Oh, Ben has his hand raised. Hi, Ben.
You have Raphael in there too. He's
Yeah.
online.
Can you all hear me?
Now I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear. Oh, great. Sorry, I joined a little late. I had to pick up my son from practice and I think Raphael joined a little late too, so he may be a little bit confused. And I'm curious, like in the DAC packet, the headline is NCPRD in 50 years, right? And so is this goal setting for what we want to be in 50 years? Or are we trying to preliminary have our influence on what the system plan could be prematurely?
Not the first one, only sort of the second one. This is, so my goal was to
What are we
help you
doing?
set some 5-year goals. And so how I started that is last time I asked you to look way out into the future, 50 years. And then this time I wanted to step back into the mid-future. And the final product I've been asked to produce is the 5-year goals. Now, the 5-year goals, it sounds like may inform and have some overlap with the system plan. So it's a good idea for this group to be really clear about what your goals are as you start to work with the professionals in the system plan. But what we are trying to do here is come up with some 5-year goals for this group that you can work towards. And I wanted them to be rooted in a future you wanted to imagine, right? So I chose to start you at 50 years and walk you back. Did that answer your question, Ben?
It does. And I feel like there needs to be flexibility with when the system plan is going on and what we hear back from our constituents, right? Because we're only, what, a very, very, very small fraction of people, and a very small fraction of people that are the fraction that get involved. There's a whole lot of people out there that don't get involved that we need to hear from them and just be flexible and open and be ready to pivot if we hear things different than what we think.
I hear you, and I have heard universally from this group the importance of community support. And I think that's why informed and involved community showed up really, really early. So what I hope for you out of this process that you're doing with me is that you'll come up with some 5-year goals that include being community responsive and help you to set up opportunities for community engagement that are consistent with your goals and will actually support more community engagement, which I've heard widespread around this table that is really wanted. Does Raphael have his hand up now? Let me make sure, Ben, any more you want to add?
No, I'm good. I'm curious
Okay.
what Raphael has to say.
I think
Okay.
it's very similar and I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. And I apologize for being late as well. And I
Raphael, is there anything covering up your microphone? You're a little muffled on our end.
Is it better? Testing one.
That's a little better.
All right, cool. Because I was gonna say I'm just naturally muffled. So anyways, I just want to say sorry for being late. I can't really see the board. I just wanted to make sure anything about, you know, fiscal responsibility and honoring taxpayer needs, that kind of thing on this agenda, because I know from my perspective.
Raphael, you need to speak directly into the microphone. You keep fading out as you're moving away, it sounds
Okay,
like.
so I'll just.
And louder.
I'm gonna talk. All right, is there anything that is talking about just fiscal responsibility and then meeting the needs of the taxpayers? I know that that's one of the things that I'm hearing the most about from my friends in the area. It's, you know, we're paying tons of money and we don't have much to show for it in our area. I mean, my taxes are $10,000 a year, and for almost everyone else in the neighborhood, it's very similar. And you know, we end up having to drive 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away or more, and comes more with more traffic to see some semblance of value for our money, and we just like it closer to home. And I just want to, you know, I heard some of these really grand ideas and goals, and I think they're phenomenal, but bring it back down to what does the community actually need, want, and is willing to pay for?
So I started writing it up in a different way. What does the community need, want, and be willing to pay for? Because my stumble was going to be, do you want me to use the word taxpayers or residents? But what does the community need, want, and be willing to pay for? I think that's not, I think that is actually a thing that's missing. I think that's, so let me see, I feel like that connects with something that we already have.
Well, I think it folds into the clarity of and the transparency of the system plan and of the well, obviously public engagement as well.
Mhm.
We're gonna fund the valve.
I mean, that's a good point.
Mhm.
And the taxpayers are the people who actually pay. There may be people are residents, but they don't all pay.
Right, but
Right,
I don't think we should make, I think we need to be careful about making that distinction.
Yeah,
And that-
pay indirectly, you're paying rent, you're paying the.
Yeah, we need to be very, I
If
think,
you're in a family and your family, you know.
yeah.
Your family is.
That's why I assembled on the word taxpayers.
Right.
Or I
Park
didn't stop,
department
I
pays
had to
a
say that.
small part of the total.
So. Raphael, I think that's a great frame, and I also see that it is. See that it is included in many of these things, but I'll include in the write-up, that is kind of that and a number of other things, like safe culture in parks. Those seem to be overarching ideas, but not really a 5-year goal fit in terms of languaging. All right, I'm gonna back up. I'm not gonna have everybody volunteer right now for what piece you might want to write up. I'm gonna write this up for you and send it out to you, and then I'll give you an opportunity. But I do want you to think about it, because I want you to do this writing, because writing this up is not gonna be useful for you. So I'd really like you to think about which one of these areas do you have passion about that you would like to start the drafting of a goal, of a 5-year goal in that area. And I will send that out to you and then give you an opportunity to say, I'll take number 2 about system plan, or I'll take the one about informing and involving the community. Okay?
Climate resiliency.
Climate resiliency, I'll make sure to work in.
So, and how soon will that be? Because what I know is that through the normal system, we will get this a week before our next meeting.
Oh, got it.
If you ask if we can get
You'll
it
have it
sent
next
out sooner, and then it also could be included like it is here, that would be awesome.
Yeah, you'll have it next week. And how about this? I am happy to, if it works for you, I'm happy to set up either on Microsoft Teams or something, a document that you can all see simultaneously. Any resistance to that?
What software will we need? I use Google Docs, but is that,
Somewhere.
can anybody
It's all
just
browser.
fall right in?
Anybody can fall right in. The county doesn't like us using Google Docs very much, but it's sort of like Google Docs, yeah. Okay, so I'll try to find a place that you can post, that you can all see the writing kind of as it happens. And I will get that up to you next week, and then I will be back in May, and in May, we're gonna wrap up, and we're gonna have a 5-year plan that supports all of the good work that you all want to do in the next 5 years and out into the future. Awesome. All right. Thank you very much for playing with me again. And for all of your work, and I will get out of the way now until it's my time to come take pictures of this when you're all done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for the input. So our next item is changes or status updates.
Okay, and I will try and be brief in the interest of time. Milwaukee Bay Park and the SDC methodology is still on hold. I hope to have some further updates in the near future, but as of right now, I don't have any changes to report. I do want to highlight and make sure that I mentioned Concord. I know all of you have gotten materials, you've gotten notifications, but this upcoming Saturday is our Concord Park and Playground public engagement event. So it's here from 1 to 3, 1 to 1:30 is a presentation. 1:30 to 3 is some more more kids games, fun games, Q&A time, chance to walk around on the property, assuming it's not raining. But we expect good weather. Candy told me she put in for a sunny day that day, so we'll see on that. And then following that, if you can't make the in-person this Saturday, the following Wednesday, the 19th, we've got a virtual event. So both all of those links to get onto that, you can see online.
Mike, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Paul? So I know there was mention of having materials available to people that maybe want to share with other groups or organizations, et cetera. Is there going to be some sort of packet or something available for us if we do want to like share this presentation in a modified version to a different group? Or?
Yes, Alex is telling me yes.
I know it was mentioned before, and I assumed it was the case, but it was just delayed.
Yeah, we've just had some deadline delays on, I hadn't heard on whether or not we were gonna get some of those drawings and stuff to show. So yes, it looks like we should, yep.
Great.
And
So-
so that'll be posted and we can then use it. Right.
Yep, and so we hope to see you all there, and please pass it on to anybody that you talk to. Because that's gonna be great. As far as NCPRD funding, what I can tell you on the budget right now is that the budget has been reviewed by the county administrator and has been approved to move forward to the budget committee. Because it's in the process, I can't give you a lot of specifics, but I can tell you we are presenting a balanced budget that does have some expenditure increases, but it also has some revenue increases that balance it out. That's just moving through the process of the county right now.
I have a question about that. In our bylaws, one of our duties is to make recommendations during the annual budget process. And yet, in the schedule, we're not gonna see it until it's already been through the whole process.
And I've
So
told
I'm-
you all that, that's
I'm just bringing it up.
it's-
It's a rub for what we're supposed to be doing. It's not your fault, so don't have me blaming you.
Yeah, we tried to, as a way to overcome at least a little bit of that by having the project, the budget forms that were available for the public and you all to fill out to help inform my decisions as I put the budget together. But ultimately, the budget is my responsibility. I've got to put it together. I've got to balance it. I've got to make the tough calls. And the way that the budget calendar works, I've told you all this throughout the process. It just doesn't give a lot of touch points for you all. And some of it is just generally getting our budget messaging and numbers ahead of the bodies that actually have to vote and approve them. And so I give you the information I can. But unfortunately, it's not as much. And we've talked about that, I think, since I've been here. It's a challenge we have to figure out. But I can say we are presenting a balanced budget. It's not really a growth budget. And I think anybody would be surprised if I said it was a growth budget. It's a pretty much a maintenance budget. But more details, the budget will get released to the public the week before budget hearings, which our budget hearing is May 22nd. So it should be the week before that is when it'll be made available to the public, before the committee sees that. May 22nd is our scheduled hearing, subject to change. If it does change, we'll let you all know. It is televised and you know, on the county's process on their television.
Thank you.
Publication. And CIP timeline system plan, I think we've covered that ad nauseum as well. So if anybody has any questions about any of that stuff, otherwise I will yield the rest of my time for.
Great.
Can I clarify, Justice Property, being currently in the queue for staff? What does that mean in the queue for staff?
Well, we have a limited amount of staff, so
Okay.
it's on our projects, but right now, most of our effort, Alex is focusing on Concord.
Okay,
Katie's focusing on system plan. We have some bandwidth that we're spending on Jennings Lodge. It's just kind of off to the side.
so at
for a
this
lot.
time, like, it's not, nobody's kind of taking the reins? on
No,
this?
we still have motion going on. I mean, the biggest thing right now is, as we told you all, I think at last month's meeting, we're having to revise the IGA between us and school district to start, because their use has changed.
I think.
Oh, sorry.
I'm talking about-
Justice property,
Justice
sorry,
property.
getting them
Yep.
flipped around. Justice property, no, there isn't a lot of action going on right now until we can get system plan and these others.
Okay, so that's on
on
hold
their
for system plan to happen.
No. We're just, again, think of a choo-choo train. It takes, you know, the wheels start rolling slowly, and while we're starting to gain momentum, staff has to spend a lot more time. Once we've got things rolling and the choo-choo's chugging along, then we can go and pick up some of these other things. When that's gonna happen, I can't say for sure. It's really a staff resource issue.
Thank you. So next item B, the public comments. Thank you. We have people queued up
Anybody?
for public comment. I have two cards
Okay, I was
here.
gonna say, I didn't see any cards yet, but.
So in the order handed to me, Kathy Schreiber. So you come up and
Hi, guys.
For 3 minutes.
Good news. So I just wanted to bring some attention. This covers funding. This
Can
covers,
you give your name
oh,
and your.
Kathy Schreiber, Oak Grove. This covers the funding stuff. This covers trends, trees, and being a steward and setting an example. Regarding, there's a published research trial that compares wood chip mulch to spraying in weeds in restoration areas. And so it's on the Clackamas County website. It's a YouTube from Washington State University. So they did a wood chip mulching comparison, and they mowed down these plots, sprayed half with their glyphosate, and they used mulch on the other half. The plants in the mulch plots grew larger, grew more vigorously, produced fruit earlier and in greater quantities, and had higher survival rates than the plants in the herbicide. Obviously, I can't go over an entire hour's YouTube about this entire research project, but it is available on the Clackamas County TV. And then they also did another weed control and growth of Douglas fir, and that's kind of near and dear to my heart, being at Alma Myra Park and watching those trees suffer. So what they ended up doing is that they had such success that they didn't use up the entire budget. They didn't use up the entire amount of time. They had a 10-year time frame, and they only used 5 years because it was so conclusive. They were like mind blown. The same kind of stuff in this again and under trending is the New York Times article about the grass being greener at Harvard, an underground revolution spreading across Harvard University occurring under the soil and involves fungi, bacteria, microbes, and the roots, which are now fed with compost and compost teas rather than pesticides and then synthetic nitrogen. The results have so astounded the university administrators that what started as a 1 acre pilot project in Harvard Yard has spread organic practices across 25 acres on the campus. So that's a quickie. I did hand out a sheet that showed the link. I know I read the IPM, which is incredible because it does talk about the safest and most best practices, like what works. So if glyphosate's killing the underground microbiome, which is affecting the tree health, it ain't working. And so we have results, and that's what I like to look at as results. So
Thank you very much.
just blah. Get as much out as I can. Sorry, guys. But yeah, I'll send this to those email addresses that are in the reports. You guys can take it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And next up is Kitty Walker. Welcome, Kitty.
Thank you, Grover. Good evening. My name is Kitty Walker, and I am here with Cynthia Quackenbush, and we're on the board of the newly completed classic infill development called Jennings Lodge Estates. And we're 72 homes. We're the reason that Grover lost 350 trees. So now that we're all there and all the homes are occupied, we're very park deficient. And we have a development that has a lot of young families, as well as a lot of old retired people that are gonna die.
Everyone's gonna die.
But we all have lots of grandchildren that we would love to be able to walk to nearby parks. And so, of course, I'm here to talk to you on the Jennings Lodge School Elementary Park, which is on page 1 of your division report. And it also dovetails in beautifully with the work that was done this evening in your goal setting, and that under your climate, I don't know, your climate category, one thing I did not hear you speak to, but one which is critical to making climate change less onerous and give us nearby parks is walkability. Walkability has to be a major short-term goal. And that is what we're lacking in the Jennings Lodge community, is we have really no nearby walkable parks, especially for families with young children. So we just want to weigh in. We want to be able to update our homeowners association on their newsletter about the Jennings Lodge Elementary School. I noticed that you have chosen a consultant. Is that true?
No.
You have not chosen.
Well, we are not under contract. I believe there is one.
You
that's been
have a
selected.
preferred
Yes.
firm.
Yes,
I would
but we're
encourage.
not under contract.
Oh, I know that you said that this project is trailing behind your other ones because of staff shortages. I would encourage you to up the importance of this park project if at all possible. We're very interested. We will be very involved. And also, I know that you have to do this IGA with Oregon City Schools as part of the project, and being a retired government employee, I know how slow and onerous sometimes these projects can be. So I encourage you to do both, to please move forward with the park planning while still undertaking your IGA and hoping that the two don't conflict with each other too much as you move down the pathway, knowing that both of them are going to take a while. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else in the audience? Yes. Mr. Elliott.
Good evening. My name is Mark Elliott. I'm a resident here in Oak Grove, and I know some of you personally, so good to see you guys. And thank God you're here in person. Love it. So I have a couple of hats, but one of those hats that I wear around here is that I'm the chair of the Oak Grove Festival, which is taking place in July 15th. And I just wanted to say thank you to NCPRD for working with us on the festival and really help being a part of that festival. That's your part is really instrumental in making that really successful event. And so I thank Michael for being there last year with the group that all the work that you did last year, and the work you're doing this year. So that's all I had to say, was to say thank you and look forward to having a great event in July.
Anyone else in the physical audience? Jessica, do we have anybody in
We do, we have one, Jan Morrison.
the
Oh, sorry, Jane Morrison.
Hi, my name is Jane Morrison, and I'm a 35-year plus resident of Jennings Lodge. I worked with Grover on many, many land use issues and planning issues in our community over the past 10 years. But I want to just add my ditto marks to everything that Kitty said. There are many people in and outside of the Jennings Lodge Estates subdivision who are very interested in what's going on at the Jennings Lodge schoolyard. As so often is stated, we were park deficient 30+ years ago when the Parks District and the comprehensive plans were written. We are still park deficient. I would urge you to move as quickly as possible to rectify that situation. And also, as Kitty said, you could get a lot of community involvement on this project and to make the load lighter for your staff. So please let us know what we can do to be helpful, and please keep us informed as you move forward. And that's the end of my statement.
Thank you, Jane. Anyone else, Jessica? This concludes the public comment portion of our meeting. And our next item is DAC member reports. Yes, sir.
I'll make a brief report. From the Milwaukee Community Center Advisory Board, and some I'm sure is covered in the division report, but wanted to first of all report that the Housing and Senior Services Fair that happened last month was a huge success. Over 200 people attended. It was, I think, the highest attendance they had recorded, and they're planning another one, I think, this coming calendar year again, which is pretty impressive. Shows there's clearly a need for some of that. But also wanted to get save the dates for you all. The soonest coming up will be the what was the Italian dinner is now the evening of wine and roses. Maybe butchering that, but that'll be on May 6th. It's actually going to be listed as a Portland Rose Festival event too, which will hopefully bring a little more notoriety to it. It's a fundraiser for the Milwaukee Community Center nutrition program, Meals on Wheels, all the other terrific stuff that goes on over there. So May 6th, you can go online to find tickets. That'll be in-person dining. I think there's 2 seatings. There may be some notable people slinging pasta out there in the past. I know we've had some people out there. In any event, it's always a fun event. Please check it out. And then another one to kind of get on your radar, and I'm not even sure if tickets are available, but it was brought to our board's attention, is June 11th. They're going to be doing a drag bingo event at the Milwaukee Community Center, which is pretty exciting. There was a lot of, at least in our boards, a lot of chatter about how fun this is going to be. We're very excited about it. Hopefully it'll sell out quickly. So get that on your radar. That's June 11th, and this is actually available on at least the Portland Rose Festival website, though I haven't actually checked the current Milwaukee Community Center website for these dates too. But pretty exciting events. So I just wanted to make sure you all have this info to share with your folks as well. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Others?
I've got a couple. We're 10 days away from Earth Day, and NCPRD, I know, is doing an Earth Day event in, I believe, in North Clackamas Park. And ivy removal event. There's some others around the Milwaukee area. The Rotary Club, I'm surprised Joel didn't bring this up. The Rotary Club and the historic Milwaukee neighborhood are doing pollinator planting on Main Street in Milwaukee on the morning of Earth Day. The city of Milwaukee has an event up in the Willow Place stormwater detention facility that will be largely removing ivy as well. That's up in the Lake Road neighborhood. And then on Sunday, the 23rd, There's a work party on Elk Rock Island, Spring Park in Elk Rock Island. So there's lots of ways to get involved the weekend or birthday for anybody who wants to get involved.
Thank you. Others? Okay, I will jump in and do one as well. I want to talk about, for those who don't know, we set up the district advisory committee such that we have staggered terms for representatives from the four unincorporated areas. And we're on schedule so that one member from sub-area 3 and one member from sub-area 2, their term will be up, and if they choose to run, they'll reapply, and others will be encouraged to apply, and it's already been posted on the NCPRD website. Thank you all for that support, and it will be posted online as an available position, I think starting on April 13th. So if you know people who live in either sub-area 2 or sub-area 3 who are interested, including incumbents, but we're interested to apply. And the only other thing that goes along with that is it's leading up to, there'll be an in-person hybrid meeting in this very location on May 17th. As a first opportunity for the groups to meet and begin the process of the nominating committee. And then there'll be a subsequent meeting in June for the sub areas to select. And that's all I have on that.
That was May 13th.
May 17th.
May 7th.
Any others? Okay, that completes member reports. And we did the district monthly report, so I was interested it's there, unless you have something to add.
No, just to highlight a couple of things again, reinforce this upcoming Saturday from 1 to 3, our Concord. Shameless plug for the Oak Grove Festival. If you want to come and get a balloon animal from me, I'll be there at the NCPRD booth. And I did want to highlight again, shameless plug, May 7th on our looking ahead, very last page of our report is going to be our second annual. I did one last year, very low key. World Laughter Day. For any of you that know a little bit about me, I'm a laughter yoga leader and laughter ambassador for World Laughter Yoga. And May 7th, celebrated all around the world, is a celebration of world peace through laughter. So it's a free event to come out to the Milwaukee Community Center from 11 o'clock till about noon. We talk about world peace and we do some laughter yoga, which is really just laughing without jokes and doing some yogic breathing. So I hope it's a really grim celebration. Yes, yeah. But that's all I had. We have, as you can see, we have lots and lots and lots of things. 2,500 different plants planted, 41 or 42 different summer camp opportunities coming up. Lots of great things going on.
Cool. Sorry, one other quick thing. It reminded me of the Milwaukee Community Center community garden spaces are open, and I believe there are spots available for rent. I think it's rented or leased. I'm not exactly sure how it's a nominal fee, and I know there's even a scholarship program with that. But if you're interested in garden spaces, that is something that is available through the website. Sorry.
Thank you, Mike, for the update on the phone and texting process going to start. And I also want to short tail on the issue of inviting. I have actively invited several hundred people to come for this Saturday, and hopefully we can get a good turnout and have more people see what we're doing, meet the staff, and progress moving on. So thank you.
All right, we'll make sure we have clickers so the fire marshal doesn't come and give us any problem.
Well, you guys think about the more people than me. So.
Yeah, I think we've got 4,000 on our.
Yeah, see, I know.
And if there's anybody who doesn't know what pickleball is about, they are actually playing down the hall.
Yeah, they've never seen.
Wait,
Yeah.
Stretch.
At 8 o'clock, I should run down there. Come down and we'll play.
All right, great. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, so the future dates, May agenda submission is well entertained April 19th. Finalization of the agenda will be by April 24th, today's first day, and then the next DAC meeting is May 10th. And we have tentatively the planned agenda will include DAC for settings, discussion phase 3.
And there will be some other stuff we anticipate.
Okay. Any other business needing to be spoken? Thank you.
Thank you.